So firstly, let me thank you for making the effort to come in. Brilliant. We're glad that you're here. Thank you. Firstly, I'm going to welcome Leslie Holt. Leslie is the Director of Acceleration and Adoption at the UK Telecoms Innovation Network, known more quickly as UKTIN. You don't call it UKTIN, do you? You do you? UKTIN, that's great. Well, she's invited an illustrious group today, and we're going to talk about the potential, the barriers, and the future of 5G and 6G in the UK. Leslie, over to you.
Brilliant. Well, I was going to introduce myself, but thank you for that. So yes, I wear two hats. I'm part of WM5G, leading, as said, the acceleration and adoption activity, but for UKTIN, so we do call it UKTIN, but it is the UK Telecoms Innovation Network. I particularly lead on our regional activity, our skills activity, and our adoption activity. And UKTIN, we are going to tell you a little bit about what UKTIN is at the end of this session, so I'll leave that for now. But the theme of the panel today is 5G and 6G. Future wireless technologies are key enablers for digital transformation and innovation. I think very well aligns with the themes of Wales Tech Week this week. Digital technologies, I was going to say, continue to transform our lives and the way we live. They have dramatically so over the years. The benefits that connectivity delivers are really the foundation stone for future economic growth, job creation, supporting actually our achieving net zero targets. So a fundamental component part really for the further digitisation of the UK economy. I'm going to say this, I'm sure many of us in this room remember the deployment of 4G and kind of how that has really kind of contributed to the transformation of our individual lives, but as of businesses and how we operate. You know, we'll remember voice and messaging to mobile devices and applications. Really, that's only in the last 10 to 15 years, so, you know, quite a dramatic difference to our lives. So we're now in the world of 5G and actually 6G pretty much fast on its heels. So what does that mean in terms of benefits and it's going to have an impact on our businesses? So it can expand productivity possibilities, create new jobs, new services, new opportunities. So the point of the panel here is to find out about some of these impacts, some of the potential, some of the barriers, and what the future is for 5G and 6G in the UK. Now, I have three panellists. I have Dritan Kaleshi from Digital Catapult, I have Kevin Hegarty from WM5G, and I have Tudor Williams from Filtronic. I would like them to do their own introduction, because I'll probably do them a disservice if I do their introductions for them. So if I hand over to you, Dritan, first.
Thank you very much, Leslie, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Dritan Kaleshi. I'm Director of Technology for 5G and Digital Infrastructure at Digital Catapult. And for those that don't know Digital Catapult, it's a national organization with a primary focus on supporting and scaling up innovation in all digital technologies, and with a particular focus on telecommunication and digital infrastructure. And it is quite not complete serendipity that we are here today, both as UKTIN and on behalf of the Digital Catapult. At this moment in time, we are the authority in the UK for digital technologies innovation, and specifically in telecommunications. And we work very, very closely with partners across the UK, including in Wales, of course. Myself, my background is in networks and protocols and telecommunications. Been working for Digital Catapult for about 8 years, and at Digital Catapult, I am the founder of two major national initiatives, one of which is Sonic Labs, which is an intervention in Open RAN interoperability testing, and the other one, which is where I work with Leslie and Kevin, and also in an expert capacity with Tudor, in the UK Telecoms Innovation Network.
Brilliant, perfect. I'll go in order. If I go to you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kevin Hegarty. I'm the technology lead at West Midlands 5G, and I've been involved in the delivery of several acceleration and adoption programs in the technology space. Working with experts like Dritan and his colleagues at Digital Catapult, we have supported some 500 organisations through our Spring 5G accelerator, which was part of the DCMS 5G testbed and trials program. I'm also the clusters lead for UKTIN, tasked with convening key stakeholders from across the regions and nations to engage and raise awareness of the UK telecoms landscape. Whilst I clearly have an interest in the technology, what excites me most is the opportunities that it enables. And we've demonstrated that the technology works. We've done plenty of tests and trials, but in order to truly realize the promised benefit of advanced technologies like 5G, 6G, and so on, we must work on removing the barriers to adoption.
Excellent. And last but not least, Tudor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tudor Williams. I'm Director of Technology for a company called Filtronic, based in the northeast of England. And we're a designer and manufacturer of RF hardware for a range of applications, including aerospace and defense, space and telecoms. My remit within that company is looking at new technologies, so the strategy and new technology roadmaps, including telecoms, obviously, and we play an important role in that sector, mainly in the backhaul sector, so transferring large amounts of data from one point to another point. So really interested in technology, and I guess I'll give the hardware and supply chain sort of steer to this panel rather than the sort of user side, but focused on the hardware and the supply chain of that market.
Excellent. Now, Dritten, I'm going to go to you. Kevin just said that we know 5G works, it's here. So what is the potential then? What's the state of play actually in terms of the development and what opportunities exist?
Okay. It's quite interesting because at this moment in time and for the past 6 or 7 years, there has been a continuous discussion, borderline a debate between what the mobile industry has done, which is promoting very, very heavily 5G and marketing it in order to effectively generate demand to create a market, and its actual capabilities in those 5 or 6 years. And the UK was early on in this particular stage. So I absolutely agree with Kevin. 5G now exists. Network devices exist. There is deployments, not providing full coverage across the country. There are private network enterprise solutions, and there are spaces where the private enterprise companies, manufacturers, logistic companies, hospitals, and port authorities and transport are actually using 5G technology, including having access to the devices. At the same time, and this is interesting in particular in the transition that we see now between the 5G and 6G, which will come in 7 years' time, it is interesting to see that the technological capabilities that were purposefully designed and developed by the mobile industry in order to shift from a mobile broadband offer, which the previous generations of the mobile telecommunications were, into a technology that was more capable to scale down in order to be deployed into a private enterprise, private networks, where people needed it. All those kind of technology promises and standardization that were happening in the last decade, most of those are readily available. So from a technology perspective, we are there. From a market perspective, which is the other side of the coin, the rest of the world, including the UK, has done a remarkable, like with WM5G, a remarkable job in educating people for this new technology offer. So here it is a technology that wasn't used for enterprise networking. That was very much, so it wasn't an IT technology. It was a telecommunication technology. And here it is an offer in this space for which people needed to be educated. So the education phase, moving from an education to exploration of the technology, that has happened. Moving from that exploration to exploitation is probably the stage where we are at. So we will see technology capabilities in terms of low latency, reduced capability devices coming on board now with the 5G Advanced, network capability in terms of slicing being technologically ready. All of the elements that were promised before, they are technologically available. There is an exploration capability from the market, from large and small manufacturers, stadiums, entertainment industry, creative industries, logistics, transport, etc. We are at the stage when these two need to kind of marry better together. So that would be where I see the 5G kind of being at the moment.
So that kind of links to you, Driven, because you're a supply-side organisation. So, why should I adopt 5G? What's the benefits then if we're going now to that adoption stage?
I think there's some big benefits for companies adopting that technology. As we talked about, everyone's using more and more data. So data is king these days. Data processing, artificial intelligence, moving large-scale data from one place to another within a company or within a site is becoming more and more important, and that's something that 5G enables. And also mass connection of devices as well, so you can have many, many more devices now connected to a single network and have this network of networks effectively in a site. So some big benefits, I think, for business adopting that technology and becoming an early adopter and finding these use cases. I think we saw with 4G, that the technology comes and it's almost after it's there that we see the full benefits and what kind of things it can actually do as people start to learn and adopt those technologies and start to tailor them towards their own sort of business needs. So I think it'll take some time. It's definitely there. Just from a technology point of view, it's there. Now we need to get that exploitation, start to see the benefits. And some of the test beds and trials that we've done already are starting to pull out some of those threads, and they'll get built upon over time. And as we build upon them, it'll get a stronger and stronger business case. So it's an investment like anything else and needs a business case to do it.
Yeah, and is there would you say there's a particular sector or a particular region that you think actually
I think
going to benefit most? Or
yeah, I think there's probably a few, isn't there? So things like manufacturing, where you have lots of automation requirements and some real benefits in pulling that new technology through in terms of productivity. That's one area. Transportation is another, which is probably cross-threaded. We talk a lot about autonomous vehicles, for example, and that sort of thing has been floated in future networks. I think maybe a bit soon for 5G, but maybe in 6G we'll have more and more connection, I think, by that point. And it's making sure we're ready for that, And one of the things for that kind of application, and then links into the regional aspect, is wide-scale connectivity. Everyone needs to be connected all the time, and that just hasn't happened to date, particularly in parts of the UK, obviously in the Highlands and the islands of the UK. That's a very difficult thing to do. And you see the same in the US. You've got large swathes of the US that aren't connected yet. And the dream really is to be fully connected all the time. And for applications like autonomous vehicles, where you have to have that automatic feedback, it's going to be really important that comes. I think regionally, the benefits are massive to have that connection. We've changed as people to use data almost continually. Everyone wants to be connected all the time. So these communities that aren't yet connected are really missing out and really struggling as businesses without that connectivity. So that's the real challenge now, is to push it everywhere and make sure we get that widespread connectivity.
So Kevin, you talked about you've delivered adoption programs. So let's delve a little bit deeper into what are the barriers to adoption. We're talking about the kind of explore to expand stage. So what would you think are the key barriers?
So yeah, I think there's quite a few different reasons why an organisation may have struggled to embrace the 5G technology. There are external factors and internal factors. Externally, of course, the economic landscape, creating a reluctance to make technology investments. And then also, I think, Driven, you mentioned earlier around the coverage and service availability of 5G, especially if the organisation is reliant on the commercial network, the public network. Of course, there are examples now of having private 5G networks, but again, it comes down to cost and the use case that's being looked at. So they are the external factors. And then internally, I still think we've got more work to do around awareness. So despite the fact that we have completed numerous trials validating that the technology works, many organisations remain unaware of the benefits that the technology can bring to their business. So there is an awareness piece. And also, even if a business understands that it needs to sort of reach out and perhaps as part of its digital transformation, It's looking to find out how to incorporate 5G technology into solutions. The UK telecoms market is very fragmented. So it's very difficult to sort of work your way through. If you're an SME, work your way through that market. You know, who do I need to speak to? I think I need to know, I think I know I want to adopt wireless broadband connectivity, but where do I start? Difficulty in making the business case is another one. So, and I think there, organisations need to see for themselves that the technology is in action, and also see that it is actually addressing their sort of challenges and concerns that they have. So seeing that for real. Upgrading and replacing existing systems may involve significant cost, especially if we're considering going down the private network route. And in order to make that business case, it may be that actually it's not just one single use case that a business, that applies to the business and makes the business case. It could be a series of stacked use cases, different changes within the organisation, which when you add it all up together, there are sufficient benefit in order to justify the investment. Lack of skills is another one. It's difficult for businesses to find people with the right skills to deploy and maintain these new technologies. And then finally, DCIT have championed a number of initiatives aimed at addressing these barriers to adoption, such as the UKTIN adoption programme, as well as the 5G Innovation Regions programmes, and I think we'll touch on that later.
We're going to touch on them, yeah, give a little bit of information. Just going back to the skills bit, because I think that's quite interesting. You talked about adoption awareness. So actually, you know, what skills are needed? Do we have the right skills now?
So I think there's much work to be done in this area to ensure that the workforce is suitably equipped with the necessary skills. So industry is faced with multiple challenges. The technology landscape, digital technology is constantly evolving, resulting in the creation of new products and services. However, it can be difficult for businesses who are really focused on the here and now, day-to-day operations, to find the right people with the necessary expertise to be able to exploit this technology. The other problem we have is an aging workforce and a lack of young talent coming into the sector. So I recently read a stat that 60% of engineers were over 50, but only 5% were under 35. If you compound this with the fact that not enough young people are choosing a career in telecoms, then if we're not careful, we're moving into a cliff edge where, as people retire, there are insufficient numbers of young people coming into the industry with the right skill sets. And again, as part of the UKTIN programme, we have the UKTIN Talent Forum, which has been set up to address and help work through these challenges.
So I'm kind of thinking, we're talking 5G and we're talking some of the barriers to adoption and the skills. 6G as well. Let's move to 6G now. So what does actually 6G, Tudor, mean for us? What stage are we at in that becoming a reality?
I guess we're early stages in 6G, but it's starting to be developed. So as soon as we have the next generation, we've got 5G and it's launched, we start talking about the next generation and the capabilities that might have. We're going to see continued drive for data. So that's not going to change. So we've seen that on every generation of mobile comms as it's come through. The demand for data just keeps on growing, and the demand for the processing power to do that keeps on growing. And again, the sort of latency type challenges that we talked about with 5G are still there and will continue to be there. I think with 6G, we'll see a lot more integration with non-terrestrial networks. So looking at satellite, I guess to fill part of that challenge we talked about earlier on about connectivity, global connectivity. And one of the main ways to do that may be to actually tie in non-terrestrial, so satellite type networks, so HAPS type networks, to try and augment the ground-based networks to make sure we have connectivity everywhere. I think that'll become a big part of 6G standards. And then it's looking at the application space. The security will be bigger than ever, I'm sure. Again, it's a big driver for 5G, but it'll just continue to become more important that we have secure, good quality data networks that we can trust. And I think there'll be a drive for more companies to be involved in the ecosystem. You know, we've seen that already with the political tensions across the world and supply chain challenges we've seen already, and that sort of open RAN networks, and where we're trying to disaggregate networks to make them more accessible to more supply chain players. I think that'll continue. I think there'll be a desire and pull from governments across the world really to have many more players and more choice really in the hardware we can choose. And that ties back into security as well, I think, with the unsavory actors that we have throughout the world.
So I'm just thinking, Kevin talked about, you know, business case and ROI. So as a business, Dritten, why should I wait for 6G then?
It depends on what's the business. I kind of, if you allow me to explore between kind of your question and the fantastic way you explained it, Tudor. But if we look at the different generations, it's a very unique kind of situation. So I'm not a mobile industry person. I'm a researcher, and I'm looking from the outside in some way. So if you would allow me for just a few minutes. So if we look across 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, that should help us on what we should expect from the 6G, which is precisely what you outlined here there. So in 2G, we had the first system that allowed secure mobile connectivity, well managed, everywhere we were, outside our homes as well as inside our homes. 3G introduced the concept of internet data, introduced the concept, and 4G made that kind of concept a reality to the fact that we take it for granted, and anyone that is younger than 25 years old probably doesn't remember what it meant before 2010 to use a mobile phone for data. 5G, the main characteristic of 5G, apart from all of the technology, the wonderful advances, but fundamentally to introduce for the first time the concept that cellular connectivity is not only for connecting us when we are out and about, but it is also to connecting all things, not just humans, but all things together wherever they are. So still the concept of very, very large, well-supported mobility in a well-managed network with high security, the three main characteristics. So if we look at 6G, it's precisely all of the elements that Tudor described, but trying to effectively paint a picture of more mature vertical industries and private networks, and effectively 5G becoming not an all-encompassing or the only kids in the block, as in covering and connecting everything, but becoming a very, very significant part of a digital fabric that will effectively provide our connectivity for the future. We will be living more and more digital lives. We like it, we don't like it, it's beyond our liking it anymore.
It's a fact.
So we need connectivity. So if we now come and bring it back to your question, this generational development of cellular technology, telecommunication, and this digital fabric that we talk, that connects absolutely everyone and everything together, using whatever means, non-terrestrial communication, satellite that Tudor mentioned, Wi-Fi, very low power connectivity devices, as well as 5G, 6G, cellular technologies for longer distances. That digital fabric then translates into any company that is involved in innovation, and it shows a continuous process of innovation. So the question for companies as to why they would be interested in 6G, it depends on where you are in the market in this particular space. So it is more of a question not waiting or not, but what it means for you. And that is an exploration, and that is where UKTIN helps, as well as many, many other organizations, individual organizations, WM5G, Digital Catapult, and other organizations similar around the world, to try to map as to why you would be interested in this. If you are part of developing the technology, the time to invest in it is now, because there is nothing else like the mobile communications. You'll see what is being shown today, you'll see it reaped, as in picked up in 7 years' time. But if you are an adopter of the technology, then you need to be aware, where does your product development roadmap aligns with the changes and the development of the digital fabric, be that 5G, Wi-Fi, 6G, or no G at all. But what does it mean, that internet of the future, that digital fabric kind of coming together? And to put it in a context, in the UK, we are not waiting for 6G, different from 5G. There is a much more coordinated effort around the development of 6G capabilities in the UK, because it is a critical sector. So it is effectively looking, there is significant investment from the government, from the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. Telecommunication is one of the 5 critical technology and science areas. And there is a very, very significant amount of work going in this direction, and we can touch a bit more later on.
Yeah. So supporting innovation and R&D is important then, to be able to understand the landscape, the technology, which is, what technology is right for business. It's super important.
True.
You touched on the competitions. It'd be quite interesting to know a little bit more about some of the competition. I think I'll go to you, Kevin, first of all, because I know DSIT, Innovate UK have put significant importance on telecommunications. So
they have.
An overview of...
Yeah, so they've, so in support of the UK's wireless infrastructure strategy, the government is running several competitions aimed at unlocking opportunities around digital economy using advanced digital connectivity, advanced wireless connectivity. The £40 million 5G Innovation Regions, 5G IR program is just one of those initiatives. It aims at promoting the adoption of 5G and other advanced wireless technologies in order to support business and the delivery of public services. The key sectors with high potential for economic growth and productivity gains are those sectors that are being targeted here. But they will vary by region. So this competition is throughout the UK, and local regions have bid for funding in order to deliver some of these projects around public services, rural industries, transport and logistics, advanced manufacturing, as well as creative industries and so on. The ambition is that these projects will demonstrate the scalability and sustainability of 5G use cases across key sectors of the economy, driving local innovation and the adoption of 5G-enabled products and services. So this project, this program of 5G IR is about the government is about to announce in the coming weeks the award for various different projects, and then it will go into mobilisation.
Yeah, and the important thing there is it will be awarded, but the whole aim of the projects is this dissemination across the UK so that we get that learning. Dritten, I think there's some other competitions, Innovate UK funding as well.
Yes, I think about 8 days ago, Innovate UK, UKRI Innovate UK, announced another £28 million funding under what is called an SBRI scheme. Please don't ask me for what the acronym stands for. But it is a fully funded, 100% funding for companies that are interested on very, very specific areas on telecommunication capabilities and solutions. But there is a broad interpretation of that. There is significant amount of information, and the call is open on the Innovate UK website, and the person that you probably would want to contact if you are interested is a gentleman called Todd Kirkham, which is the Innovate UK leads technologist for 5G and telecommunications.
Yeah, and there's obviously, there's a lot of investment in this area. So look at Innovate UK and also look at the UKTIN website for details. Just going on to sort of some next steps, and I thought it was quite interesting what you said at the very beginning, Dritten, is that I think, I don't know, I'll get my stats wrong, but I think when 4G was launched, the UK was something like 150th or something in the world. And you said we're well placed with 5G, because I think we were like one of the top 5 anyway countries in terms of 5G. So my question is kind of, it's important. How well is the UK placed to kind of make sure that we further 5G adoption and also, realise the benefits from 6G, which are coming quite shortly?
It's an interesting space because at this moment in time, yes, it is true. UK was at the forefront of starting the rollout of the 5G as compared to the 4G. So 4G started to be rolled out in the UK in 2012, and the first network, the first public network in the UK on 5G was launched in 2019. And that shows quite a significant acceleration because it is associated with extremely large investment commitment from the operators in this space. So for the 6G, we are in very early stages, as Tudor already said. UK has an extremely strong capability and often genuinely world-leading capabilities in the academic research, because it is that research that will position the UK capabilities to be a supplier of technology and not just an adopter of the technology and a deployer of the technology. So we have an extremely strong academic community in all areas of telecoms, not only on cellular. I know we are discussing only 5G, 6G, but in optical communications, the UK is a world leader, absolutely. And in some highly specialized areas, it also holds its own quite well in the rest of the world, including antennas in Filtronic and others. But this is the space where genuine investments in academia and in the industry at the moment will effectively reap benefits. And the UK has invested between 2017 and 2025. So in those 8 years, the government would have put £450 million in this particular space. Half of that spent on adoption and half of that spent on the technology development, including disaggregation of the supply chain. The question is, what will the government continue to do? And also we need to look at how this moves the needle genuinely, in particular in industrial R&D in telecommunications, because that is the industrial R&D, the translation of the research out of academia into products, that very, very difficult innovation stage of picking up technology readiness level concepts and proof of concepts of TRL 3 and 4 and moving them to technology readiness level 7 to enter into the market. That is the particular space that is extremely hard, but that is where the real economic growth actually happens.
On that note, if I move to Filtronics, because like I say, you do supply mission critical products and services, etc. And so you kind of got to be at the forefront of innovation and take up. So, we've talked about barriers, but what are the opportunities? What's the challenges from an industry perspective?
Yeah, I think the important thing to start with is working out what 6G looks like. So there's things in the UK because we've got, as you said, fantastic academic capability, really groundbreaking research and development. It doesn't always get commercialised in the UK. I think that's a pity. I think we need to do better with that. I think the government has definitely woken up to that, and the investment in telecoms and in other areas like semiconductors and other areas across space as well. They started to see that they need to actually embed that research and development into the UK. So the first thing is working out almost getting rid of the noise as well, because every time we have a new generation, we get a lot of these massive targets about terahertz and about different application space that we need to fulfill, and the realities are cut off in some way away from that. So we have to be realistic as well when we set these targets. And as a UK company, we can't ever be in the volume market. So we need to pick these niche areas where we can actually start to develop product that we can actually sell. We picked one of those niches, like I said, the backhaul market, where we can be competitive. It's sort of medium volume type work, but we manufacture and design in the UK and make good money out of that. So it's finding those little niche areas, I think, and stitching together the UK supply chain, I think, as well. So actually trying to work together. And the UKTIN is starting to do that. And I'm part of that UKTIN expert working group as well to try and look at the UK landscape and how we work better together to try and pull all that capability into one area and choose the right roadmap for the UK. And it may not be the same as the roadmap for, say, America or China, but we'll have our own place in that market, and we can do very well in certain areas as well in the UK.
Interesting. Right, I promised at the beginning we'd give a little bit of an overview of what UKTIN is, but if you can get ready thinking of any questions, and I'll come to the audience in a minute. So going back to what, we've talked about UKTIN, but I'm keen to kind of let the audience know what UKTIN is in terms of how businesses, how can it help businesses or businesses benefit?
So, as the name suggests, it's the UK Telecoms Innovation Network, UKTIN. It's the innovation network for the UK telecom sector. So it aims to bring together government, industry, and academia stakeholders to boost R&D investment, cooperation, and commercialisation of products and services. It's been delivered by a consortium of 4 members. So we have Digital Catapult, Cambridge Wireless, University of Bristol, and West Midlands 5G. And it offers businesses, however big or small, a wide range of support services. So you could be an organisation, a SME, that is looking to connect with others within the telco ecosystem. And the UKTIN Supplier Specialist Guidance Service, a bit of a mouthful, can provide tailored guidance and support for your business. So things like signposting you to organisations, universities and individuals who have got the technical know-how, the technical expertise, potentially identifying potential sources of funding, as well as facilitating access to test bed and other test resources. So that's the Supplier Specialist Guidance Service. You may be an early stage telecoms R&D company that is seeking to grow your business. So the UKTIN Innovation Platform provides tailored growth programs through the innovation and investment workouts. You may be a local authority who's interested in sharing or receiving some insight and learnings on how to exploit this technology for the delivery of services for your citizens. And for that, we have the UKTIN Clusters Forum, which aims to connect stakeholders to share insight and raise awareness. If this is you, we'd love to have you on board. It's open and it's advertised on the UKTIN website. And similarly, if talent and skills is something that's close to your heart, we also have the UKTIN Talent Advisory Group, which is always looking for new members to help address the challenges that we mentioned earlier.
Skills for today and for the future.
Yep.
I know Tudor mentioned the experts. We've also got the special interest groups written as well. I don't know if you can expand on what they do.
Very, very briefly, so what I think, without taking anything away from what Kevin said, one of the challenges in the telecommunication industry in the UK is that the telecommunication industry as a sector is very, very fragmented, and there is not a single voice in that. So one of the purposes of the UKTIN is to bring that community together. Certainly, we are focusing primarily in innovation, serendipitously for today, but of course, and the R&D. And one of the elements is that we would like, which is exactly what Tudor said, to try to bring together a bit of a more long-lived, almost programmatic approach to the research and development roadmaps for the UK. And to do that, we have deliberately followed a community open consultation for engagement format. We have recruited about 120 people in an open process, one of which is Tudor, experts in their individual fields, from optical comms to wireless to AI to semiconductors, which is run by the semiconductors application, compound semiconductors application Catapult, CSAC, in order to do two things. One is to write some white papers on the roadmap and what the UK needs to invest now in order to reap the benefits in 7 to 10 years' time, and progressively until then, not to wait. But second, also to build a structure of continuous voice for the industry in the direction of the R&D in the UK for this. And we are quite well advanced. The expert working groups are working well, and we anticipate white papers to be distributed, published, and consulted with the wider community between December and March next year, right on time for potentially government uptake.
Excellent, excellent. And it's the difficulty in navigating our sector is really a key thing. Right, I'm going to go open up to the audience to see if we've got any questions from anyone. If you have, put your hand up and somebody will come round with a mic. Oh, good, okay, all right then. Excellent, thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for an interesting panel. My name is David Chow. I'm at the Compound Semiconductor Applications Catapult, very long name. I just wanted to get some thoughts from the panel on Ofcom's decision to delay millimeter wave auction, because that also potentially impacts latency on data networks. And just wanted to see what your thoughts on that delay to 2024 will have against the rest of the world.
Sorry, could you, because I only heard parts of that. I don't know if I heard that it was about millimeter wave. You mentioned the spectrum 28 gigahertz. Could you please
Sorry,
repeat that?
did I?
Sorry, yeah, it's
Now it's better.
the acoustics, not you. It's the acoustics are not ideal.
I'm not a karaoke singer. Anyway, my question was, what impact do you think Ofcom's decision to delay the millimeter wave auction because of merger with Vodafone and Free will have on 5G and 6G advanced networks? Because millimeter wave would be quite useful to increase data latency. That was my question.
Do you want to pick it up?
Yeah, I can pick that up. Okay, so I think I mentioned at the start that we have when we have new generations of technology, we have promises of great things. And millimeter wave was one of the ones in 5G. And it's not had massive rollout. I think there's challenges behind that in terms of operating cost. So the devices cost a lot of money to make still, and we're seeing that adoption come through. So we're starting to see, I guess, the cost come down on that hardware, and that's when we can start to see business case and actual revenue generation from it. I think they're probably holding back that auction because it's not ready. The market isn't there. So we have very niche use cases that can use millimeter wave, and it tends to be in very densely populated areas like stadiums and highly dense crowds in festivals, for example. And I know I went to a festival this year, and although I had a full mobile signal, I couldn't make a call the entire week. So there's definitely a use case there. Always what you've got to have behind this is the ability for someone to pay for it. So will the end customer pay for it? Because if they won't, then the network operator will never adopt it. So we've got to try and chase that down, I guess. I don't have the answers. I'm not in that side of the business, but I think it'll come. I think part of that is bringing down the hardware costs, bringing down the implementation cost and the infrastructure costs and solving some of those challenges, which probably lag behind the main business case of 5G, which is all much lower frequency. Actually, it's probably sub 6 gigahertz is the main thrust of 5G. And that's what people went after first, which is the biggest market. We'll start to see these additional bits tag on. And that's not unusual, I think, in new generations. I think that tends to happen. We tend to get to launch, the fundamentals are there, and then we start building on top of that with new use cases as they can be adopted and be financially viable.
I would personally quite agree with everything that was said. And also, if you look at millimeter wave, in particularly for fixed wireless access, the primary kind of technology, there are very, very few trials of that in the UK, whilst you see some more kind of trials and even potential kind of early deployment in the rest of Europe versus kind of US. For some interesting reasons, it wasn't kind of primarily because of the investment versus the return, and on the device side, there wasn't a strong interest in the UK. So out of all of the trials that were done in the UK under the 5G testbeds and trials program, there were extremely few that were done on millimeter wave, and out of those, some of them were on the 60 gig, Y gig kind of technology, rather than pure 5G millimeter wave in the 28 gig space. So the delay is primarily, I agree with Tudor, that the market conditions are not quite there yet for people to invest in it.
I guess I should point out on the backhaul side, we are definitely using millimeter wave, and we're deploying systems now at 71 to 86 gigahertz. And so backhauling the data back from the main network back to the data centers, it's widely used, and we're a big part of that business and our products are at that very high frequency and going higher and higher. And that's part of the drive for 6G, is to go above 100 gigahertz and up to 175 gigahertz, which is quite challenging.
Good afternoon, Gary Rawlings, MD for the Team UK Limited. My business is in social corporate responsibility, but not in this country, in Africa. How do you see 5G being rolled out in Africa? And what do you think the problems that they have there at this present time? When I say social corporate responsibility, my company is linked with an associated company that's gathering information on smartphones, sending it back to the likes of, if I may use, like TomTom, who are then collating all that information, these people are getting paid on a daily basis to gather that information. So it's doing some good for the families there, putting food on the tables. But that's where I'm coming from with this. But the 5G rule coming out of Africa, how do you see that? Thank you very much.
Shall I go to you, Dritten, first, and then perhaps Kevin?
I'm finding it difficult to...
I think, we couldn't hear you terribly well, but I think it was talking about kind of the social impact of data.
Much better without the microphone, if you can. Without the microphone. No, much better without the microphone, if you don't mind. Yeah, as long as for the online audience, yes.
So in other words, how fast, are you saying about in terms of connectivity, how fast 5G has been rolled out in the UK? Okay, yeah, right, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you before. So I think in terms of, I'll go to Kevin and then probably Dritten for this question. So in talking about the rollout of 5G, I mean, we're bound to answer that one because we're from the West Midlands, and the West Midlands is the most connected region outside of London, so we're super proud of some of the work we've done on that space. So I don't know if you want to add to that, and then perhaps I'll come to you, Dritten, in terms of broader UK.
Yeah, so in terms of Africa specifically, I haven't got the data, but I think often we find in sort of developing regions, they're not held back by legacy technology. So in terms of the deployments, there's more opportunity for greenfield deployments, which is less complex. So they tend to skip, certain regions tend to skip legacy technology. So the opportunity is there and the technology is being deployed, but I can't say sort of how advanced it is at this stage, unfortunately.
I can refer, again, apologies for me as well. GSMA will have a very, very good report on the penetration and the coverage by regions around the world. I was trying to, whilst Kevin was answering, I was trying to bring it up, but my Wi-Fi connection is not working. So I could have given you the answer referring to their report. But that is quite, I don't have the data at hand at the moment. But I absolutely agree with what Kevin said, that usually in that part of the world, there is this interesting affordability of smartphones on one side, but also a sense that sometimes there is a skip of a generation and the legacy systems are less blocking from where they are in the UK or more developed countries.
Right, I'm super conscious that we're run over by 5 minutes, so I know we've been given a little bit of leeway, but we better not go too far beyond. So I think, first of all, thank you very much for panelists joining in. Thank you to the audience. Conscious, let's say, if there's any more questions, I think a bit of a call to action. You know, the UKTIN is there as a platform for you to find out more, and I suggest, you know, there's lots of information already on our website, but there's also inquiry forms. So if you haven't had a chance to ask us a question and you've got something pressing, please go there, please connect with us, because we're really keen to grow our network, actually, and in many ways, in many areas that Kevin talked about, there's plenty of opportunity to do that, so we welcome you to join. So thank you very much for having us.